I'm Meg Turney. I got into cosplay 14 years ago. I'm old. Just kidding. I knew you were going to say something snarky, so I looked at you. I knew you were going to say something snarky. I was already worried about it. You're a lovely human being. Anyway, I went to a convention here in Austin. It was a first-year convention called UshiCon, and I just saw everybody in costumes. I wore like a dress my mom got me from Korea. Like I was that kid that was like, "Hey guys, this is also remotely Asian." Accidental appropriation. And then saw everybody else in like cool costumes. I was like, I gotta get into this. So that's how I got into cosplay. And my very first costume was hot glued together, and that was my adventure.
That's awesome.
Anna, you are a special case here because you don't actually wear the costumes that you create.
Not for a long time. I mean, I would make costumes for myself in college and, random things like Chaucerian dresses for my, Chaucer class. But not, like you do. But not since I started making costumes that are typically thought of as cosplay costumes. No, I do those for Rooster Teeth and my children. and
They're part of the family.
They are.
Yes.
And they'll be around tomorrow dressed, which will be really cute. I challenge you to find them, but don't attack us. You can look. They're really sweet. But that's what I do.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Zombie. I've been cosplaying since I was about 16 years old. I went to my first anime convention a week before. My mom's like, "Hey, idiot, people wear costumes to that, right?" And I was just like, "What?" So she helped me make my first costume, and I've been hooked ever since. So I have to thank my mom for getting me into cosplay. And since then, I've helped Adam Ellis work on his bread costume for the How to I Am Bread video and a bunch of other fun stuff along the way. So.
Was Idiot like a pet name your mom had for you?
Well, endearingly.
My favorite little idiot.
All right. My precious idiot.
So I have this like kind of lame PowerPoint that I made because I'm stuck in 1997. It's basically just to help visualize what we're talking about. So I'm going to kind of go through points. If you guys have anything you want to add, please feel free to jump in. These are kind of just like the most basic questions that I get for how to get into cosplay. So the first thing, yay, it worked. Okay. The first, yes. Oh, you like my joke. This makes everything about this morning so much better. Okay, so how do you pick a character, right? Like there's this kind of like overwhelming process that everybody always asks about. It seems so like hard to get into and really scary. So people just don't cosplay. I feel like I get people all the time. They're like, I wanted to cosplay for 25 years and I don't know how. So we're gonna help you figure out how to cosplay. All right. So the first thing you need to do is pick a character. A lot of people argue between design and devotion. So do you think the character looks cool? Do you actually know who the character is? That is up to you. There is no one who can tell you that it is cosplay if you don't know the character, or it's not cosplay if you don't know the character, or whatever. It's completely up to you. Some people are all about the character that they love, and I don't look anything like it, but I want to cosplay it, and that kind of gets me to my next point, which is cosplaying for your body type is BS, and it's a kind of fairly recent rumor or myth that's been going on in the cosplay world. You should never, ever, ever be limited by what you look like.
Definitely not. Don't limit yourself. I mean, the world is trying to limit us all in so many ways already. Express yourself however you feel driven to. Just get it out there.
Absolutely. I think one of the coolest things that people do nowadays is put their own spin on characters. So, you don't look like, you know what? In Mass Effect 1, there was no femshep, so you made your own. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like it took cosplayers kind of making their own spin on things, and I think people really appreciate that nowadays. So make it your own. Don't feel limited by, I don't look like this character. They're drawings. Nobody really looks like them. Do you? Also, a popular thing or a common thing that happens to people is not considering your skill level. So people look at someone like Yaya Han and see that she makes creations seemingly out of thin air. She like breathes and then there's an amazing costume on her body. And She came from a very long line, and the most amazing thing about Yaya is you go to her site, you can see her first and second costumes still on her site. She came from humble beginnings too. Like, we all came from hot glue and staples and duct tape and bad decisions.
Stitch witchery.
Yes.
Lots and lots of hot glue.
See, I did that like last year. Okay. So a lot of like cutting corners until you make it. But pick something that you're not going to get intimidated by and want to quit because it was too hard.
Or just something that you're comfortable with. Even if you want to start with like a big suit of armor, there are tons of patterns out there that you can just get and print out and cut out and like glue together by number, and you can make something that you may not have thought you could have made. So there are lots of options.
It's not cheating to
No.
let others help you.
No such thing as
You know,
cheating.
that's-
Absolutely not. Bringing me to my next point.
Aha.
Construction. Do your research. First and foremost, it's going to save you a lot of... rage crying. I was like, did I make a joke on this slide or did I misspell something? Thank you. All right, so do your research. There are things that some people are super picky about details. And the nice thing about this world is that no matter how into something you are, there is somebody who is either equal or more into something you are and has already sourced everything for you. The Replica Prop Forum is a wonderful resource. I actually did a group with the Avenger Bunnies where I was Hawkeye because I joined the group last and no one wanted to be Hawkeye. It's true. It was between Hulk because nobody wanted the paint and Hawkeye, and I was like, I'll take Hulk. And some girl before me was like, Hulk! And so Rachel got Hulk and I got Hawkeye. But the really cool thing was I went to the Replica Prop Forum, and somebody had already sourced the material, where to get it. It's actually a custom blend, but they found a very similar blend. His exact belt, the arm guard he used, where you can order it, all that kind of stuff. It makes it so much easier.
One of my favorites was when I first starting the 405th, because I was big into Halo costumes. I made like 4 or 5 suits of armor, and they have tons of like, hey, where can I get an undersuit, or where can I find this pattern, all that kind of good stuff. So that's another favorite, and they're also now owned by the RPF. So it's awesome.
Cool. It's lovely. I love cosplay.com. Usually I'll Google something like, I think I was working on my Pluto costume, and I was like, Pluto's wig color Arda wigs. And it was like cosplay.com from 4 years ago. Which Arda wigs color should Pluto's hair be? And then it was like people chiming in, and then like everyone agreed on Mirkwood green. And I was like, great, Mirkwood green, done. I don't have to worry about it. I'm one of those people that if I let myself, I'll worry about something for about 16 days before I order something. So let people worry for you. Amazon Prime is your friend. Nothing about cosplay will ever be done ahead of time. As much as I'm going to get to that on my next slide. Give yourself plenty of time, but it will still be last minute. Something will break or you'll find something better, and Amazon Prime will help you.
That's absolutely true. I have started, last year, I started the Ruby Girls costumes in, I think, March for July, for the July RTX. And I think I did about 10% of them between March and like June.
Yeah.
And then I was frantic for the last few weeks. But that's how it works. That's just how it works. Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime is your friend. It will help you. Again, accept your skill level with construction. But like Zombie said, reach out. Tutorials are everywhere. I use them all the time. DeviantArt is a great place. The Replica Prop Forum. A lot of people are really, really passionate about their process. And I thank them over and over and over again for it because they'll take super detailed photos. This is how I dip dyed my Unigunner skirt or whatever. There's tutorials for everything start to finish. They are out there. Another thing is commissions. A lot of people think it's cheating. There's no cheating in cosplay. Like, even if you buy it off the store shelf and wear it, like, okay, that's what you wanted to do. Like, accept that. That's cool. There are people who make things that I could never dream of. All of my props are always commissions. I cannot make a prop to save my life. I don't need to. There are people who do that, and they get nice money for it.
Same. I'm so bad at props. Like everyone's
so
like,
intimidating.
they're like, your costume's cool, but your prop is awesome. Who made that? And I'm like, hey, it wasn't me, but I can tell you who did. So.
Absolutely. Credit. If somebody made something, be honest about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't try and take credit for something that's not yours. The internet is forever, so when you say you made something and then like 2 years later you admit that you didn't make it,
It will come back to bite you.
It will come back to bite you.
Don't lie to the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like, people, they're not as uptight as you think they are. Even if they say, like, your outfit's awesome, or your prop is great, where'd you get it? Oh, I got it from so-and-so. Really cool. They're not going to be like, you bought it? You suck. Like,
Oh my God.
That's never going to happen to you. So accept that people can make things for you and give credit where credit is due.
But also don't be afraid to try to make
Please.
things. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
I am not a prop maker. And all the Ruby girls last year had these gorgeous props that were 3D printed, and they were lovely. And many of you have seen them, and they had working parts and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when my son cosplayed Ruby for Halloween, we didn't make a crescent rose because we couldn't get the parts to put together in time for RTX last year. So I had to make him one. And I mean, it's rickety.
But it worked.
It's rickety. But it worked for trick-or-treating.
Absolutely.
The little guy carried it around.
Squishy skirt.
He did. He loved that skirt. It's awesome.
So so actually that's the last point on this slide here is most importantly there it goes. Most importantly, just do. Like, feel free to just try and try and try again. Every single time I try something, then I'm like, this looks like crap. I learned something that next time it won't look as bad. So feel free to try and try and try, and have backups for your backups. If there's something that, like, for instance, I'm making shoulder things, and I've never made shoulder things before. So my backup is I'm going to have somebody make the shoulder things. But, I'm going to try first, and then I'm going to learn, and I'm going to get another thing of Warble, and then I'm going to do it again. You know what I mean? So
Yep. And get ready to burn your hands, especially if you're playing with Warbler.
Warble is your friend.
Gosh, and giving yourself plenty of time is just like, it's so important. I know, especially with
also
cosplayers.
so hard.
Yeah,
It's
we're
so hard
so
to do.
notorious for procrastinating, but some of the supplies, like, you can't just get in 2 days on Amazon Prime. Year, but I'll go ahead and order that fabric now, kind of thing. So that kind of stuff comes up and it sucks, but
It's true.
It is true. And also, you save yourself time if you give yourself plenty of time. Like, Amazon Prime is great, but sometimes it's more expensive than something that's going to take 2 weeks to get there.
That's totally true. And it's a completely valid concern. Nobody wants to spend 4 times what you need to spend on an item just to get hold of it in time.
Absolutely.
I think what I do a lot of the time is I'll spend a good, that March to June kind of, that period of lead up. I spend strategizing.
Absolutely.
Most of what I'm doing in that time is, assembling materials. If I've already started collecting materials for the kids' costumes for this Halloween, but if you can just take the pieces and start sort of assembling your raw materials, but I think so much of it is mental. I mean, you just need to spend time thinking about how you're going to put these pieces together and what you're going to use to create this next section and how that'll fit together. I mean, there's so much strategy involved in construction.
Absolutely.
So.
And you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache if you think it through. If you use cheap material to try and mock something up, if you use a pattern that you know is going to fit, if you give yourself not one day to make a piece, because you could make it wrong and have to rip stitches for 6 hours at night.
It's so
dear.
painful.
It happens to everyone, absolutely.
Yeah.
So give yourself plenty of time, and like she said, a lot of it is mental. If you feel like you have a good game plan, it seems a lot less intimidating to go ahead and make the costume. If you feel like you have no game plan, it's really intimidating to get into it. At conventions, let's talk about being at an actual convention with your costume on. Always carry a quick fix kit. Something will break. It will happen. It happens to every cosplayer.
Yes.
So double-sided tape is your friend. Maybe like a needle that's already threaded that you can just quickly grab a hold of.
Safety pins.
Safety pins.
Bobby pins.
Yes. These are all great things that are your friend. Practice poses ahead of time. So one of the things that people do is they spend all this time in their costume, and then they don't know how to stand in it. It's a really awkward thing to do at home. I totally get that. But it's something that you feel more awkward when the time comes if you don't know how to stand. And you can totally go back and look at most of my cosplay photos where I didn't think of it ahead of time, just like, Like, absolutely default pose. So it's good. Like, look up if your character has like a stance that they stand in, or something that's going to make people go, "Oh, that actually looks exactly like the character."
Yeah, and you're looking at reference photos so much that you're like, gosh, I'm so tired of looking at this freaking character in the same dumb pose. And you're like, oh wait, I could use that for a photo. So that's useful, I guess.
Those are the kind of photos that most often, I hate to use the term, go viral, but most often get picked up on the internet are poses that are like the quintessential character. It just gives your costume that much more level of realism if you're able to give people something that they are familiar with your character.
Yeah, you want to give people an opportunity for you to sell them the character.
Absolutely. Another thing is makeup. I didn't put that on this slide, but it's something that people overlook a lot that just gives your costume the finishing touch. Obviously, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. If you don't want to wear makeup, don't wear makeup. It's all about being comfortable. That's absolutely the most important thing about cosplay is being comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, you're not going to want to do it. But makeup is something that a lot of people, I notice a lot of beginners skip out on, and it's something that can give, and also you look, like when I'm in cosplay makeup, I look like a drowned mermaid. Like I look ridiculous up close, but in photos, it looks really, really good. So if you look like a circus clown, you've nailed it.
It took me longer to put on my makeup this morning than it did to actually put on all this armor. Like, it takes so long.
Absolutely. Fake eyelashes are your friend. There are tutorials. They're really hard to do. You will get it.
Don't feel bad if you can't use them. I can't use them.
You should feel bad.
I feel bad. They make my eyes water like mad.
Yeah. Well, and they do, and it will. One of the things that we kind of touched on, but I do want to talk about, is knowing what you're comfortable with and standing your ground. Don't be afraid to tell a photographer, no, I'm not going to do that. There's a really awesome push lately with cosplay doesn't equal consent. So if someone is harassing you, if they're making you feel uncomfortable, if they're asking you to get into a pose that maybe the character does that you don't want to do, you are not obligated to do anything that someone asks you to do if you're not comfortable with it. So don't be afraid to stand your ground. Someone might make a snarky comment or say like, "You're such a bitch." Cool, but I don't have a photo that I'm not comfortable with floating around on the internet forever.
I don't even care.
Yeah,
Whatever.
exactly. Femship has no worries about you.
No worries.
Roleplay versus cosplay. So this is kind of something, another thing like buying versus making, devotion versus design. Some people become the character. They will speak like the character. They will only answer to the character's name. Some people are just in a costume because they like the character. Neither is right or wrong. That's just how people enjoy it. It's all up to you and what you feel comfortable with.
I do have to say, I mean, when you see someone who looks exactly like the character and is acting exactly like the character, it's so cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm femship all the time, so I wouldn't know. So, no, but it is really cool to see.
No, that is really cool. But I think it's there's a lot of ways to celebrate, cosplay in general. And for a person like me, I don't wear the costumes at all. I love building them, and that's the joy of it for me. But there are going to be people out there who just really love building them, who are wearing them to show off their workmanship and how, and just look what I did. I spent so much time, and isn't this cool? And they're not necessarily interested in being the character. They've spent a lot of hours putting something gorgeous and amazing together, and that's what they want to do. And that's totally cool.
Absolutely.
So celebrate it however you want.
Definitely. There are definitely characters who, like, I don't smoke cigarettes, but Faye Valentine does, and so this guy harassed me for a while about why I wouldn't let him watch me smoke a cigarette because Faye Valentine would. I'm not actually Faye Valentine. This is not a real cigarette. You cannot watch me smoke it. So that kind of goes back.
That's kind of weird.
It's kind of scary.
I think that crosses a line somewhere.
Oh, yeah. It gets creepy real quick. Know that cosplay, I should have put that on the slide. Know that it can get creepy real quick.
Don't be too surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, know the rules. A lot of conventions have different rules for what is and is not acceptable attire, what is and is not acceptable behavior, where you can and cannot have photo shoots. I know that WonderCon has very strict rules about hallway photography, or they used to, about setting up shoots in hallways. So know the rules and know prop rules. Prop rules are very different for every convention. A lot of them are going to require that you get your weapon checked, that you get like a tag on it. Also plan for that. When I was in my Faye Valentine costume, I had this big ugly band around the gun handle, but I was able to hold it in photos so you couldn't see it. But you have to keep that visible. So like do abide by the rules because they're there for a reason.
And some conventions don't allow you to have airsoft guns at all, just because they look so realistic. And even if you gut them completely and paint like the tip orange, they're just like absolutely no airsoft guns. So most cons have weapons policies, so that's always good to check out.
Yeah, definitely. And also, there are some conventions that have really unique rules. Like Comic-Con doesn't allow you to compete in a costume that has already been worn at that convention.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you want to, it's a really strange rule. I hate that they do it because their masquerade is on Saturday night, which means that if you want to actually show it where people will see it, sorry, Comic-Con masquerade, you have to wear it on Sunday, and it's not really like the biggest cosplay day. So be aware of stuff like that. You don't want to get disqualified from something you worked on all year because you were wearing it on Friday at Comic-Con and you can't now compete in it.
That's really strange.
It's
so sad.
strange.
I'm not into that.
As following up with that, cosplay contests are fun, but they're not required. Don't feel like you have to compete or that your outfit has to be competition level. Everyone gets to a convention and thinks like, they think when they're getting there, like, oh, everyone's gonna look so much cooler than I am. I'm gonna look like such a dork. And then you get there and forget because you're just so excited that you're at the convention. So, like, allow yourself to be excited and not worried about whether or not a judge would like your costume or not. Also, be prepared to be tired. Something that a lot of beginning cosplayers, I think, takes them by surprise. Cosplaying is tiring. People asking for your photo is tiring on, like, this weird emotional level. Like, by the end of the day, you're going to be tired. Be sure you're emotionally prepared for that so you don't like lash out at someone or anything.
I mean, it's okay to tell someone no. Like if you're thirsty or you need to go to the bathroom or you're hungry or you need to go to sleep, you can politely tell someone, I'm really sorry, just tell them what's going on. I promise I'll be back later. I'll be back tomorrow in the same costume.
Or I'll never be back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
I'm
okay
not
too.
coming back.
I'm not coming
Check
back.
the internet.
Done.
No. But
Absolutely. Yeah, and with food and drink, for some reason, it hasn't happened as much lately, but for some reason in the early 2000s, there was like a really big rash of like taking photos of cosplayers eating.
yeah.
It was a really annoying trend. Don't be afraid to tell someone to F off if you're eating, politely. Excuse me, good sir. Could you fuck off?
Kindly.
Yes, kindly.
Kindly fuck off.
Do contact the staff if you have a problem. If someone is harassing you, if someone is making you feel uncomfortable, if you're not able to get around properly in your costume, if anything is going wrong, the staff is there to help you, and they want to see you helped before the end of the convention. A lot of con staff see somebody complaining on their Facebook page because something happened, and they didn't know what was going on, so they can't help you. On the flip side of that, if you contact the convention staff and somebody isn't helpful, don't be afraid to go to someone else and let them be aware that someone hasn't been helpful to you. A lot of convention staff are volunteers, and they can't help if they don't know that there's a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about profit, which was on my list. So what is a professional cosplayer? There are lots and lots of different ways to be a professional cosplayer. A lot of people call me a professional cosplayer. I'm not actually. I don't make my professional living cosplaying. It's very difficult to do. I think a lot of people see the shows like Heroes of Cosplay and things like that and think like, it's so easy. It's really hard. Those girls, like Jessica Nigri works harder than anyone I know. She is at a convention every weekend and has a brand new costume every single time. So it's really not as easy and glamorous as it seems.
Good point. I honestly don't know what a professional cosplayer is myself. I feel like most of them who call themselves professionals have a full-time job or at least a part-time job to support their cosplay. And I mean, it's hard to not only just sell props, which is pretty profitable for some people, just like if you're just making costumes for yourself, you're selling prints or you're selling your costume that you wore. And it's hard to make a livable income like that. I don't know how people do it. So that's a good point.
I'm not a cosplayer myself. I call myself a costumer.
Yes.
So,
and there's actually an interesting sort of recent debate, costumer versus cosplayer. And
it seems like cosplayers are the ones playing in the costumes to me. That's
and the
my take.
costumers are the ones who are constructing the costume. Fair enough. A lot of, like, for some reason, costumer has become like people who were like, I was a cosplayer, and now they're like, I'm a costumer. Like, it's like they've grown up. And
It's fancier.
Yeah, it's very fancy.
I would feel fake. claiming
Right,
to be a
because you don't.
cosplayer because
totally
I
get that
don't
part. You're not actually doing the play part
dress up.
of
Can you be
cosplay.
a costumer until you put it on? You're like, I'm a cosplayer.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This should be
You can be both. Do both.
So actually, Zombie brings up a really good point in selling prints. Know what you're getting into if you just do decide to sell prints. You have to get shipping tubes. You have to go to the post office so much more than you ever wanted to go to the post office.
Yes.
You have to deal with actually getting good quality prints and making sure that people get them. Are you signing them? Are you personalizing them? Are you keeping things in stock all the time? If things get busy, if you have finals, are you shipping stuff out on time? It is so overwhelming. If you ever look at, Jessica Negri is a really great example here because she makes a lot of her living from selling prints. If you ever look at the photos of her being like, hey, I'm signing, she has like thousands upon thousands of things she's signing at one given time, which is really amazing. Also really tiring and a lot of work. She basically has like a staff that helps her mail that kind of stuff out because it is overwhelming. And I think that's it. Questions? Wee. So we're going to give you guys a chance to ask questions if you have any. Guardians are mobilizing. There's a
Got microphones on each side.
Hello.
As someone who's extremely busy, I work 40 hours and I'm working on now my second master's as well as finishing my first. Do you have any good like habits to get into to work in between getting cosplay started even for yourself?
I work 40 plus hours a week, and I work a lot of overtime too. And I also work nights. Luckily, my job, I work 4 days on, and then I have 3 days off. So I feel like that gives me a little bit of extra time to get up and work on stuff. But my biggest issue is like setting an alarm, I guess, to wake up and work on stuff. It's like, I'm going to wake up at 2:30 p.m. and I will work until I have to go to work tonight. And then I woke up, I'm like, I'm still tired. I'm going to sleep in until 6:30. So that's my biggest hurdle. But I couldn't imagine working 40 hours and working on your second master's. It's crazy. Good on you.
Yeah,
That's
congratulations
awesome.
on the second
Yeah.
master's. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it all comes down to like that strategy we kind of talked about. If you feel like you have a good plan, you're able to put it into smaller increments that might be a little bit more manageable. So today I'm working on a gauntlet, and that's it. I'm just going to focus on this gauntlet. And don't feel like you have a timeline. There are people who debut costumes that they've been working on for years. So there's no rush. It's just if you start now, you don't have to debut that costume in a week or a month or anything like that.
Thank you.
Thanks. My ice is dripping through the table, so I'm afraid for the microphone, so I'm going to put it on the floor. Thank you. I made a puddle.
I was wondering what cosplays all of you started with.
Do you want to start at the end?
I made my first cosplay my mom helped me with, and it was Sakura from Naruto. Yeah, I loved Naruto. So good.
The first one that I made for Rooster Teeth several years ago was actually, I don't know if does it count as cosplay if it was an invented costume?
Totally.
It was Captain Dynamic, and that one was a lot of fun to help design and then figure out how to sew red pleather, which is hard to sew. Although I did realize
You're a master.
I'm a master. I'm a master at
Berlin,
pleather. I did realize that I have a career in fetish wear if I ever wanted. So that's good to know. But Captain Dynamic was probably my first official fun one.
My first cosplay, I actually just recently remade, but it was Sailor Heavy Metal Papillon. I was 15. It was a terrible costume. It was all hot glued together. I didn't have wings or a wig or like half of the stuff she's wearing. I basically was like, I did it, like at like 30% progress. But I recently remade it, which was really cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. I'm a college student. I'm about to take on a whole bunch of more like responsibilities being an RA and stuff, but I'm looking to cosplay more armor pieces. Would you have any like hints and recommendations for someone working on armor costume on a college budget?
Foam is really cheap, and that is what I use. You can go to Five Below and get foam for like $3 a piece, $5 a piece for a big roll. And Evil Ted and Bill Duran on YouTube are amazing for tutorials, so that's a really good place to start.
That sounds like a really good place to start.
Yeah, Bill Duran's amazing. He's Punished Props. And her name escapes me. I just bought her book. She's a German cosplayer. She works in Warbler. Kamui Cosplay. Yay.
Yes.
Kamui Cosplay. Her book is $5, and it tells you everything you could ever hope to know about Warbler.
By the way, Warbler is awesome.
It's super great.
It's so cool.
It's super fun, and it's definitely a little bit less cheap. It's more expensive. Less cheap. It sounds better.
It's less cheap than
It is
foam
a little
alone.
more expensive, but it's just a difference of looks for what you're going for. If you're going for a metal look, you're gonna want something like that. If you're gonna go for more of like a bulk look, foam is really, really great as well.
It's also a difference in durability.
Yes.
I mean, if you can get a layer of Warbler on the outside of something that you've built, it's going to last a lot better.
But the nice thing is, and a good trick for everyone, is if you screw up something, battle damage.
Yeah.
So,
That explains me.
thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Do you guys have any tips for makeup for the guys?
Do it.
Don't be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely do it. There's lots of really cool stuff you can do. It just depends on the character you're looking for. And the coolest part is it's basically just theater makeup that you're doing in real life. So, if you want it like hair, it's like stippling. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't know.
With the brush.
Yeah. Let me give like a
Get
little
a dry
fiber
brush and just,
shadow going. Yeah. YouTube is your friend.
it is. But don't be afraid of makeup. Honestly, I wish guys would wear makeup more. Everybody can benefit from eyeliner. I don't know why this is something that's, we all need a little
Frowned upon.
definition,
Absolutely. And everybody on camera wears makeup. So, I mean, if you're going to do a photo shoot, you're on camera, wear makeup.
Every guy you've ever seen on television in the movies, they're wearing foundation and eyeliner and the whole nine. It's
Absolutely.
how they
you.
show up. It's how you see their features.
Thank you.
Hello. Sorry. My question is, sorry, my voice is kind of shot. My question is, I feel I'm 24, and I know that's not old, but I feel like, is there an age where like it's weird to start cosplay at all?
No.
Never.
No.
Never.
No.
And just a quick second one. Do you guys have any recommendations for people who take commissions for costumes? Because I'm about to start a new job somewhere, and it's just gonna be kind of rough to get everything started on my own.
Definitely.
I don't know how to find construction people.
Cosplay.com.
Being one myself.
Cosplay.com is an amazing place because a lot of people do commissions off there, and also you can see people sell their old costumes on cosplay.com as well.
That's good.
So if you're looking for a particular character, you can always like put out that you're looking for it, and someone might just have one to sell. Cosplay.com is a great resource.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is for that last guy. I'm 42, so don't worry about being weird. My question: so, what's the most versatile material you've used, and kind of what's your go-to, probably most used material?
Am I a broken record if I say warble again?
I know. I was just thinking the same
I
thing.
thought maybe that was what you were going for.
Warbler is. I don't know. I feel like we're Warbler proselytizers now. Like,
They aren't paying us.
they should be.
I've never
it's-
used Warbler, but it sounds amazing.
It's
really fun.
see?
It's a thermoplastic with, like, from the age of when thermoplastics were only for people who knew how to use them. Like, now anybody can use them.
Yeah.
So
You get your heat gun, and
it becomes putty, and then it becomes, like, armor. Awesome.
it's super versatile. I can't think of anything else that is that. I mean, obviously, I'm using fabric a lot more often than I'm using
Right. Like, there's
Warbler,
not, like,
but
a fabric I think that's, like, super, like, go-to fabric.
right, because you need different fabric tension and texture and stuff for every different piece that you
Absolutely.
make. But Warbler is forever.
Also, there used to be 2 rules of thumb in cosplay: no satin and no crushed velvet. And actually, now that cameras aren't as crappy as they were back then, you can use whatever you want. It used to be because they would pick up the flash so terribly, they just like reflect back at you. And crushed velvet looks really trashy on like a bad camera. But now cameras are good, so there's no rules.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. As an individual that likes to follow so many fan bases, I like to also create so many characters along with it. Is there any tips for bringing such characters to life? Any additional tips, that is?
I love mashup costumes. So if you have a lot of different like fan base like loves, mash them up. People love that stuff, and it's really fun. You get to make everything yourself. I find designing characters from the ground up really daunting. I keep talking about her, but Jessica Negri does it really well. She'll just like come up with an outfit for something. I just don't have that skill. But if I can take something that's like, I like Doctor Who, but I think the design of Mario is really cool, and you just like put them together, like people instantly recognize it and they think it's cool.
Or gender bend.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun too.
I'm more along the lines of creating the costumes from the ground up.
Awesome.
If there's anything for that, or
I'm not good at it, so I can't help you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry. Hello.
So y'all have talked about, you guys tend to commission props, but in terms of like the complexity of the prop, does that affect what characters you cosplay? Like if you were doing like Jean versus Sun from Ruby?
I think sometimes, I've always wanted to do Payne from Final Fantasy X2. She has this really cool sword, but she also has all these really intricate work on her leather. And when I was in LA, I knew a leather smith. The guys who do Man-at-Arms were like, let's get together and work on that cosplay. And I was like, yeah. Now I don't live in LA, so I'm never going to do that if I don't have them on my side, because it's just too daunting. And then you have to take into effect, like, cosplay props are not cheap. They're very expensive, and rightfully so. They're not easy to create, and each one is different. It's not like they can just like cookie cutter you something that's crazy if they've never made it before. So it would be hella expensive to make that weapon without somebody that I was working together with.
I just want to throw out there too, though, and this, I don't know if this is a random thing, but there's nothing that says that your character has to be carrying the weapon.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just.
Absolutely.
I think you're going to be equally recognizable if you're not wielding an enormous thing that you can't build or pay somebody to build.
Absolutely.
So I think that's always an option. If you love the character or you love the costume and you just want to go for it, do it. If you can't figure out the prop, your character forgot the prop.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
It broke. Battle damage.
Exactly. It flew out the airlock. I mean, I don't know what happened to it.
Or if you're self-conscious about it, which you shouldn't be, you can just play it off by your poses too. Just be like, whoa. So
Yeah.
that works.
Absolutely.
Props are not required.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You want to go to the other side?
Yeah.
So 2 quick comments and a question.
Sure.
For anyone binding, take a break during the day because it's hell. And Goodwill and thrift shops are your best friend.
Absolutely.
And question, how would you suggest sealing paint and whatnot?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Nowadays, there's a really cool. It used to be actually when Faye Valentine was a really popular character to cosplay. White boots were really hard to find for some reason. There's like a run on white boots, so everybody would paint their boots, but then the paint would chip because it's really hard to paint pleather with anything that.
Vinyl is the worst.
It
It's
is
the worst.
really hard to do. But now there's a special paint for pleather. Like, we have come so far in technology. There's pretty much paint for everything you need. I use just like a clear sealant on everything I do.
I do too, but I still hate it.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't ever
feels
work the way I
tacky
really
and-
want it to, and
I'm like for some reason, I'm like the only person who can't spray paint well. Like, anytime I spray paint things, I'm like, this one's so terribly. How does everyone else do it? So I just use like a clear. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. I'm using the wrong sealing.
half the time I don't seal it.
Yes.
Doesn't sound safe.
Also, to your point of Goodwill being a great resource,
Totally.
Goodwill doesn't have to be, I'm looking for the exact thing I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that looks like it. I can tear this apart and figure out how this was constructed and make my own.
Oh yeah,
Also
you can
look for similar shapes.
totally build off of other items. I think that's a great, especially if you're starting, that's a great place to start. Just, take this coat that you can just cut it thin, and
Absolutely.
add some pieces, and that's a great way to do it.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say first, Meg, you are such an inspiration to me, and I look up to you so much in my life, like not only in cosplay, but just in your career in general.
Thank
But I was
you.
just wondering, what is everyone's favorite cosplay they've ever done?
My favorite cosplay ever is Chun-Li because my grandmother and I made it together.
That's
She
sweet.
saw like
That's
what
really
I
sweet.
cosplayed together, and she was like, "Let me save you, child." So she made my Chun-Li dress, and I made all the accessories, and she taught me how to sew because of that. So it's my favorite.
I think my favorite is, gosh, I've done a bunch of really cool ones lately, but I have to go with my son's Ruby. He was amazing in it, and it was so much fun to build for him. So that was great. That was really a lot of fun. Even my rickety crescent rose. But that's probably my favorite because my baby wore it.
I liked cosplaying Sophia from Gears of War because I made so many friends from making it. Just so many people trying to help me out when I was asking questions, and then meeting some people who worked on the game through it, and I thought that was a really cool experience. So.
Awesome. And then I had one more question. I was just wondering, how did you, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to pursue the career that you have?
Like hosting or cosplaying?
Hosting.
Just do. Same for cosplay.
Just do it.
Just do. Even if you make videos and you throw them in the trash can and nobody ever sees them, you don't have to upload anything you're not comfortable with.
Oh, yeah.
So just
practice.
start.
Just start. Just practice, and you will get better.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope to see you around.
Thank you.
Hi. One tip for the guys, don't be afraid to use women's clothing if you can't find it in men's. That's
Totally.
what this hoodie is. Just quick question, what's your go-to background noise?
Oh, Ever After, the movie, is on Netflix. I also own it on Blu-ray. Yeah, I do. Judge me. Ever After and The Princess Bride. I will basically just loop them, and Gavin will come and be like, "Wait, I just saw this part." I'm like, "Oh, it's again."
To add Clueless to that
Oh, it's a good
rotation.
one.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Mine is usually audiobooks, though. I'm sort of an audiobook addict, and I have my earphones pretty much all the time nearby, so I can just hit play and keep going. That's mine.
I like Slime Girls and Amonoguchi. That's what I've been listening to.
Nice. I will say, to your point for men, dance belts are also your friend.
Dance belts.
We didn't really cover male cosplay a lot in this panel, but dance belts make sure things aren't inappropriate.
Hides your dick.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be. There was a photo that went kind of crazy on the internet of a Spider-Man standing next to a child. It was a guy and his daughter, but he didn't have a dance belt on, and it looked a little sketch, and people were like, "Oh, creeper." It was just a guy and his daughter, and he just made a mistake. So dance belts are your friend.
Yeah, he was just a little more exposed than he would have enjoyed knowing
Yeah,
that he was.
Hey, hi.
Hi.
My question is about a cosplay contest. What can you kind of expect going into one of those, and what are generally rules most contests have that you should be aware of if you wanted to enter one?
I think most importantly, there's usually two different categories. There's a masquerade and a craftsmanship contest. So know which part you're going into. Craftsmanship is all about how you put your costume together. They're going to flip your seams. They're going to look to make sure everything is serged, that everything is really clean lines, that nothing's duct taped together, or they're looking at the underside of everything basically to see how it was constructed. You can expect a lot of questions about how you made things, what process you use for things. They're also trying to weed out whether or not you actually made the thing that you say you made. So they're going to ask you a lot of in-depth questions, so be ready for those. A lot of people also, and a lot of contests also accept binders. So the most serious contests, and actually the World Cosplay Contest actually is a thing. There's a World Cup of cosplay. It's real, and it's in Japan every year. But they also accept binders that are photos of each step to prove that you also made it. So those are also helpful, especially if you don't feel like you can articulate well, or if you get nervous. A binder is a really great way to say here's how I did it, to kind of jog your memory so you don't get overwhelmed. For masquerades, it's all about how you wear the costume. It's not about if you made it or if someone else made it, or if your thing's duct taped together or whatever. It's just the presence and whether or not you are captivating to the judges. So just know which one you're trying to go for and plan accordingly. Yeah.
Speaking of a cosplay contest, there's a cosplay contest today.
Nailed it.
And plug. No,
I know.
It's a
I'm entering.
Yay!
That's why I asked.
So anyone else who wants to know, prejudging is going to be at the Hilton Room 404. That's where prejudging is going to start.
Is that craftsmanship, like prejudging, so like you can go and look everything up close, that kind of thing?
More or less, it's kind of abbreviated because of time constraints. So every contestant's going to have about a minute to talk about their costume, and we're going to come and look at you and all that stuff. And then we're going to go over to the JW, and the cosplay contest starts at 3 if you want to come and watch. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Hi. I'm from a place where we have very, very, very limited resources. Like we can't get Warbler unless it's.
How do you live?
I don't. With very expensive foam. So what advice would you have for someone who has really limited resources or is trying to pursue this from a place where it's not as popular as it is here? And by the way, it's awesome that there's so many cosplayers here because I've never been to a convention that has that many.
Yay.
So, yeah.
I would just say the limited resources are kind of like limited money resources as well. You're kind of working on the same thing. So like look for tutorials that come from people who are college students who had to engineer their things from, you know, like a Walmart that they could source things from and they could afford things from.
True.
They're going to be very helpful to you.
It's also an opportunity for like, you know, problem solving and ingenuity. You know, like just you can do a lot with cardboard. I mean, you know, you can I guess it's a chance to like see how creative you can be, you know. But always repurposing other things, I think, is the key to, you know, was there foam in that package that arrived last week, or you know, I think that's probably also recycling is always good when you have limited resources. But good luck.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. Armor isn't always foam, like a foam core like that, or Warbler. You can get like the tiny foam sheets that they make, like the kids
Craft
use
foam.
for crafts, and then just Mod Podge it, and it looks like metal. So there's totally ways to make it work. And cardboard actually used to be a very popular way to do cosplay.
Well, I mean, that's what we all did when we were kids.
Absolutely.
We made shields out of cardboard, you know?
It can be done, I promise you. Good
Thanks.
I have 2 questions. The first is, for someone like just starting out in making cosplays, what would you say is a good resource to use, just all around?
DeviantArt, cosplay.com,
YouTube.
YouTubes. The
YouTubes.
YouTubes. Even Kamui Cosplay, who was talking about her book, even if you don't have $5 to buy your book, she has free tutorials on YouTube as well. So even if you're just starting out, you've never made anything before, it's just about how you can glue things together or whatever. DeviantArt, YouTube, cosplay.com.
Well, and don't be afraid to start small. I mean, just it's sort of the same thing with the hosting question. Practice is key. I started making Barbie clothes when I was, you know, like 6. And so I learned how to sew tiny little things at a time.
That's so much harder than big things.
It really is hard. It's hard. But, you know, my Barbies wore a lot of dresses that were like a rectangle tied on. You know, but just practice. Just start trying. I mean, you don't have to be amazing at it your first time out of the gate.
And nobody is.
And the second question I have is there a good way to like change the colors of things? Like you might find like this one item that is like exactly what you're looking for the cosplay, but it's the wrong color.
Dyeing is, I would call it an advanced tactic because it can go so wrong. You can't, it sounds really silly, you can't make anything lighter than it is. You can't like bleach it and suddenly it's going to be dyeable. You're going to fray the fabric and ruin its ability to absorb dye. So if you find like a black coat and you're like, oh, it'd be so great if it were blue, my advice would be take the coat apart, trace those pieces, put them back the way they were originally. It's just the easiest way. There are lots of ways to change things like wigs. Sharpie dyeing is very popular. It is a long, arduous process as someone who hand Sharpied half of a wig, but it looks really good. So, and anybody can do that. You can color. So if you need a wig and you have a blonde one, but you need a brown one, get a whole bunch of Sharpies and Ever After on Blu-ray. I swear they're not paying me. and go for it.
Would hair dye work for wigs?
It's a synthetic hair, so it does work. It just doesn't stick as well sometimes. It's weird because synthetic hair doesn't take dye as well as human hair. So it's like why a lot of people who wear, like for instance, I wear extensions, they're all human hair because they take the dye the same way my hair works. So it's a lot safer to use kind of like an acrylic-y dye, like a Sharpie. You can just take the Sharpie apart if you're dyeing the whole wig and dip it. Yeah, dip it into that thing. There's a whole bunch of tutorials for that online. Fair enough. The problem with like a Sharpie that I found is no problem. Like a lot of people gave me a whole bunch of warnings about Sharpies, like it's gonna run, it's gonna rub. My Sharpie wig is like, it stayed really, really well and I didn't do anything special to it, so I'm a fan.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. So, do you ever feel like there's maybe like a certain line that you should draw for like, maybe I shouldn't do this character because they have a certain disability or ethnicity, then you wouldn't want to like offend anyone who might actually be like that?
I think that's a really interesting question.
It is.
It's kind of a personal comfort thing. A lot of people are doing Furiosa from Mad Max. She is missing part of her arm in the movie. But a lot of people are just kind of like building around their own arms. Also, Gage from Borderlands is also has an arm missing, and she has like a mechanical arm. But people just build on top of their own. They don't. I guess they don't try to make it look like they don't have the appendage, so it doesn't seem patronizing in a way. With ethnicities, I that's kind of cosplaying for your body type. I don't think that you should have to stay within. Also, I guess I don't do blackface. Like
No, just don't.
Like
Just-
I don't know how to say
just-
that delicately.
just don't do that.
Just make the costume, but
Just
not-
be you
yeah, don't
in this
change your
costume.
skin color, I guess.
No.
Anyone else?
No.
Like I don't know how to put that. It like seems like it's so blunt, but there is.
I mean,
guess
that's a
there's
hard. I
line
think
there.
that's a rule.
That's a hard line.
That's
I
a hard
think.
line. That's a serious rule.
Okay, first of all, I love the N7 armor. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay. Do any of you have any like horror stories of it's weird hearing my own voice. Sorry. Like of you guys, you mentioned having like uncomfortable situations, anything like that to first of all entertain all of us, and because it would maybe you could give some advice to diffusing similar situations if you get in them.
Sure. The smoking Faye Valentine one is kind of an interesting one because I think the guy didn't realize he was being like a complete creep. If someone says no, respect it. Like there's not a convincing somebody to do something that doesn't come from an uncomfortable place. So if somebody says, like if you say like, okay, can I get a photo and I'm gonna kiss your face? And they say, no, please don't. Like there's no like, come on. That's not gonna result in it being an uncomfortable situation. So I think it's just respecting people's boundaries. Not taking creep shots or any photos that you wouldn't want taken of you or of anyone you love as well. I think it's just a level of respect is really where it comes into play, where it makes things awkward.
I had a really similar situation to that where someone asked me to put my prop gun to the back of someone's head while they were kneeling like I was executing them. And I was like, I am absolutely not comfortable with this. And they're just like, oh man, come on. And you just have to be comfortable saying no and being confident in your decision, I think is a big one. Like you can't, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't sway to anybody just because you're afraid of making someone unhappy or uncomfortable.
Yeah, the internet is forever. And I think that
And
that's
so is your
important.
self-respect.
Absolutely.
Just don't.
But the internet. No, I'm just
Don't hurt
kidding.
yourself. don't hurt yourself to please somebody else. That's and not being a cosplayer myself, I don't really have a good story for that.
Okay, thanks.
you.
Also, I just, as I bring this up, I think the sentence "dying, it's an advanced tactic" is funny if you spell the word "dying" differently.
It would have
Because
been a
it
good
can
joke.
go wrong.
It would have been a great joke. You can write my next cosplay presentation.
Okay, I'll go.
Oh,
Caleb,
guns,
that's what I
guns. Got it. Thanks.
Hi. So my costume is made out of neoprene, which first of all is really freaking hot, and don't do it.
But it looks great.
It looks really good.
Thanks. It's really squishy, and so when I actually made this shirt like 3 times over because when I kept trying to sew it, it had lines everywhere, and it looked really, really bad.
The tension is hard to maintain.
And so it's held together by fabric tape.
Nice.
And so I was wondering if there's a better way to, fix that.
This is like a pleather problem. Is what this is. This is any stretchy fabric that when you're sewing it, I use interfacing, or there's stabilizers.
Tissue paper.
Yeah, you can do it with tissue paper. You could just do it with paper. I mean, but they sell stabilizers, they call them, and it's like a roll of vaguely translucent white
I
papery.
use interfacing on
Some of it's
Emerald's
tearaway.
Cosplay.
If you put it on both sides of your super stretchy fabric when you're running it through the machine, it will hold it where you've pinned it, so you won't get the ripples and then the weird tension.
Yeah, and then you can just pull it off.
And then you just rip it off on either side of the seam.
Yeah. Also, cosplay there's a saying, like, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. If it looks good, it's not stupid. Like, if it was, like, you're like, oh, fabric tape, I don't want to do that. But it looks awesome. Like, keep doing that fabric tape.
You look great.
Yeah. Working that fabric tape.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Also, you bring up a really cool point with things being really hot and uncomfortable. Some things you just find out when you wear them. A lot of people tell you to practice wearing your costumes. I've never, ever, ever, ever done that.
Same.
I think the last 6 costumes I've done, when I put them on to go out to the convention, was the first time I had everything on together. You will learn. It will be hot. It will be uncomfortable, and then you will change. That's okay.
Yeah, I'll finish this off not with a question but a comment. I am 60 years old. I'm gonna
What?
tell people, yes.
I don't believe you.
And I've been cosplaying for 5 years. I don't sew at all, but I do closet cosplay. I've done all kinds of characters, and it is so fun to be with young people. And my son got this into it. My son is John in a dress today, and Mom takes care of buying all his female clothing for him.
That's awesome.
But the bottom line is that anyone can do it, and it is a fantastic, welcoming community, and I just love it. Like,
You're so cool.
I love it. That's awesome.
So we're coming up on time, so I'm going to let you guys 2 go, then we'll save it at those 2. So go ahead.
Sorry. What costume that you guys have all made has been the most well received at a con or something?
Most well received at a con. Probably the Avenger bunnies. We started a trend. There are bunnies for everything nowadays. Star Trek bunnies and DC bunnies and everything else. So when I put the costume on, I was like, this stupid cosplay group. I hate this stupid group. It's crazy. Because it's like on Sunday, I'm all tired. Everybody's sick of cosplaying at that point at Comic-Con. But then we got to the convention, and it was just like we were on Marvel's stage, and it was really, really cool. So it was something that's just like, oh, we did. And it was so random. That's the best. Like, when you go in expecting, like, everyone's going to love my costume, and nobody recognizes you, and you're like, son of a bitch. Then you go in the one that you're like, oh, cosplay is such a stupid hobby. Oh, people like this one. That's the best.
How about you?
Spartan armor. A lot of people don't even know what it is. They're like, oh man, it's Stormtrooper, that's awesome! And I'm just like, all right!
Just go with it. Go with it. I think the 4 Ruby girls that I did last year are probably my most
Absolutely.
well received.
They're so great.
Yeah.
That was fun to do. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For a cosplay like mine, where you have a lot of equipment and it weighs down on you, these boots, these were made like in the 70s. They are not comfortable. Do you have any advice for any insoles, maybe double-layered socks or something?
Yeah, Dr. Scholl's
no
is
kidding.
a friend. Absolutely. I would also say I bring backup shoes. So Poison Ivy has these platform pumps. And actually also the Hawkeye that I did, we actually sourced vintage kitten heely pumps. And they're so uncomfortable. So I just brought flats. So whenever someone wanted a photo, I kicked on my heels, and then when the photo was done, I put on my flats. So it's a little harder to do with army boots, admittedly. But if you got a nice pair of ballet flats, I'm sure they'd be wonderful.
I was just going to suggest ballet flats really are a solution to a lot of problems. They do make insoles now that are heat moldable, like you put them in the oven for like 20 minutes or something, and then you put them in the shoes that you're going to wear them in, and then you walk around in them. And so as they cool, they sort of mold to your feet. That might be a useful thing to try.
That sounds awesome.
Especially with vintage.
I just want to do that.
I know, right? So cool.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, we have one. Hello, Cruella. You're our last question, I promise.
Hi. Yesterday we spoke for a few moments, and you gave me this opportunity, and I greatly appreciate it for this.
We
but
appreciate you.
We do.
I would like for my girlfriend Courtney to come up here for a moment.
Courtney.
Courtney.
She's in her awesome Splatoon cosplay. You are a really big inspiration to Courtney and to myself, and you gave me the inspiration to do something crazy.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Just so you know, she's going to kill me later for this.
It'll be worth it.
Thank you so much. Seriously, like I said, you are a huge inspiration. We love you guys so much.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this moment with us.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I couldn't think of a better place to do it. So, thank you.
I love you, but my fake eyelashes with these tears hate you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
I know, it's so cute.
I love